On the 11th day of aircraft, we have an AMX International AMX, but I called it the KMX-minor because it's smaller and not quite the same, and it has an oar tank in its tail in order to get the balance of weight correct, because else this happens. That's not as bad as I thought. Well, in any case, it's a small fighter. It's got two cockpits. Yes, one of them is backwards. That's for aesthetic purposes only. And actually, I believe I did make this in KSP 1.10.1 originally as well. However, well, there were issues, and I never released it for some reason. And so now I am, and because of that, it's been updated. And oh yeah, the entire fuel store is just these two tanks. Forgot about that part. The fuel tanks are very, very close to the center of mass, however, so the center of mass distribution does not horribly change with them empty or full. However, I'm now wondering if... No, actually, yeah, I mean, it's a good bit of balance, but it's not strictly necessary. Probably doesn't perform well at all without that, however. In any case, let's go ahead and demonstrate her taking off from the runway, as opposed to, you know, on the field. Ignore the mystery aircraft. It will come up later. I believe she can rotate at a relatively low speed, yeah, 40, and actually wants to get off the ground even at that low speed. Yeah, very lightweight aircraft, carries two, could use it as a trainer. I mean, not actually, because the other cockpit is facing rearward, but that was just to try to get it to look better, because KSP is rather limited with your stock part selection. However, I'm quite happy with what I managed to do nonetheless, which also, completely unrelated, I started trying to make an AMX International AMX in Stormworks. Stormworks is way harder to build anything in than KSP. I've kind of given up on it for a while because it's just that ridiculously hard. But as you can see, this thing flies pretty well. It's pretty maneuverable. Not super maneuverable, of course, but it's got a decent maneuverability, and it also... decent maneuverability, decent roll rates. You can probably do a barrel roll in it. That's a decent barrel roll, and it flies at a relatively low speed, and it's also still capable of a decently high speed if you really want to push it. So it's a good combination of factors. It's fun to fly. It's a gentle craft, but as you can see, I'm speeding up time just so we can get to the higher end of its speed to show you that, yes, you can go a decent speed. Again, not ridiculous. And of course, this can't go very high because, well, we're using Juno engines and just a couple simple circular intakes, and our thrust to weight ratio is also quite low, but it can do decently well regardless of that, and it's just fun to fly. Now, just like yesterday, there is another craft to take a look at after this, but first I want to see if I can have a successful landing with this plane. You might have noticed that recently my videos have chapters in them, so you will be able to, of course, skip past this landing if you do not want to see it. Oops. Anybody wanna guess what that is? Anybody wanna guess? So I completely forgot until just now, but this is actually another craft that was made in an older version of KSP and has been ported to the newer version, and I'm just double checking the control surfaces real quick to make sure that they're actually correct, as KSP 1.11 did break all control surface configurations saved on any craft, which is very annoying, as you might imagine. You can see that this has multiple hard points for connecting things. I forget what directly inspired it. It's obviously inspired by a European design, considering they are the masters of the delta wing. But as you can see, this is a relatively simple design, got a pretty large fuselage, plenty of fuel, got a thrust-to-weight ratio of 1.39, so quite ridiculously high. Of course that gets lowered when you start adding things on the pylons, but I'm going to launch it without that right now. There is a bit of a low clearance on the main intake here, however I find it is sufficient nonetheless. I also just realized I'm feeding 2 engines with 1 intake. Actually, technically these may be open. Yeah, so these are technically feeding in even though they're used for style points and shouldn't actually work. Also, a favorite technique to make a different cockpit from others, clip a Mark 1 inline with a Mark II adapter. Makes a pretty neat little thing. The only appropriate thing to do at a time like this, floor it! And then pull up very hard to take off at 50 meters per second before you even get to the first marker on the runway. Do a full loop-de-loop because super maneuverability rocks. Stall an engine because of the low amount of intakes to engines. However, have the thrust-to-weight ratio to make up for it and maintain powered flight. She's a beaut. And as you can see, she also, while she does have super maneuver capability, she also can just turn really tight without going into that regime unless you absolutely desire she does, like so. You can see it's only when we get to a relatively low speed. In fact, in this case, we did not actually pull out of that regime at all into the super maneuverability. We just did a nice tight loop. But with the afterburners on, I believe it becomes a bit easier to do that. Don't recall exactly. It's been a while since I've flown the Jasper. Actually, she's doing quite a good job of maintaining steady control. That's fascinating. I did not realize she was this good at maintaining a positive velocity vector. If that makes sense. Positive velocity vector may not be quite the way to put it, but oh no. Oh, look how curved. Actually, no, I think that's about the right position that it was in. Let's see. No, it's damaged quite a bit. Oh yeah, no, I can see now. The bottom is all curved inwards, whereas it's supposed to be flat on the bottom. And you can see obviously massive fuel leaks. Let's just ditch all of those. Who needs them? We're on the ground safely. Safely, she said. Yeah, she's just a fun, fast plane to do stupid things with because, like, you know, actually let's just go and get rid of those. Don't mind the explosions, don't worry about those. Who needs explosions when you got time warp? See, I want to demonstrate how fast this can go, and honestly, I didn't remember how fast it could go, but I decided, you know, why not? 500 meters per second. I'm going to go ahead and disable SAS to let the nose drop just a little bit. And we're developing a slight roll as well. Don't know why, but it's okay. And see we can maintain control quite well, going up to 800 meters per second pretty soon. And you can see things are working quite well. Oh yes, one downside to using these for this particular position is you can see they're creating a lot of drag. You don't actually see the drag vectors, you just see the lift vectors, but there's the drag vectors inside the fuselage going all the way back to, actually they might be sticking all the way out the back of the plane. Yes they are. They're those ones, the largest drag vectors on the entire thing. So yeah, creates quite a bit of drag, but worth it for the aesthetics, and when you have thrust, you can go to 900 meters per second just fine. Now, for the ultimate test in aircraft survivability as well as pilot survivability. What happens if you use canards to pull up at 900 meters? They died. I want to see how much of the plane is... Well, the plane is... What's that? Jasper debris. Well, bye. Sorry. Thanks for watching. See you in Twirly Bird Hell. And cut. I was not expecting it to actually die at the moment that I said that.